Adams is a cynical, reclusive genius. But for over 2 decades, he's been answering questions on any and every subject sent in by you, the teeming millions. Now, even more of you will have access to Cecil's brilliance. Prepare yourself. You're about to get a dose of the straight dope.
Hey, welcome to The Straight Dope, the show that will never, ever lie to you. I'm Mike Lucas. I work for a very special man, Cecil Adams. He'll go to any lengths to answer questions you send into him. Like, is it possible to live on bread alone? Or what's in a Mickey? Is chocolate an aphrodisiac? And can opera singers really break glass with their voice? Hold on, we'll get to all that. But first, a question that every real American just might care about. Dear Cecil, isn't it true that you could once go up into the arm of the Statue of Liberty and come out by the torch? Wasn't there a lookout there? After all the publicity during the centennial, I began to realize they're hiding something from us about this. Michael S., Hollywood, California. Paranoid, Mikey? In the early days, the torch was open to the public. However, the platform around the torch could accommodate just 12 people and was reachable only by a single 54-rung ladder. By 1917, crowding had gotten to be such a problem that the authorities decided to end public access.
What you do is you go up the spiral, the double helix, and then right at that platform, you come out and you come into the inside of the cage, and then you climb up the area is only maybe 25 to 30 inches in diameter, and you climb on a ship's ladder, and you crawl up through there, and then there's a little door that's right on the side of the base of the flame that opens up and you come out.
According to the National Park Service, the statue had been damaged the previous year by a massive explosion in a nearby Jersey City ammo dump that had been touched off by German saboteurs.
Over in New Jersey, which is not very far from here, in fact, it's like less than a quarter of a mile, something like that over there, there was an explosion on what was called the Black Tom Wharf. And at that time, some German saboteurs blew up about 14 barge loads of ammunition. And what that did was, in fact, blow out the casements and all the windows in Ellis Island. And it actually shook the torch.
You know, you can see it's got X's and triangles and all that stuff. And that's stiff. And then the armature is just a loosey-goosey thing. You know, it just is all tied together. How do you calculate it? I really don't know.
Sculptor Gutzon Borglum, the same guy who carved the Mount Rushmore Memorial, rebuilt the existing copper flames of the torch by inserting 250 panes of amber glass, which were then illuminated from within. But water leaked in past the improperly sealed glass and severely corroded the iron armature inside.
I think till about 1901, the statue was under control of the U.S. Lighthouse Service, strangely enough. And they started cutting holes into the torch so the light of the torch could reflect out the light bulbs inside.
The upraised arm had been installed about 18 inches out of whack to start with, for reasons that have never been entirely clear. And by the time restoration began in the 1980s, Ms. Liberty was in serious danger of going the way of Venus de Milo.
Nice one. That's one of the world's best known and most beloved landmarks, the Statue of Liberty.
When it was built and reassembled here in America, it was already placed off by quite a few inches. So the shoulder was completely messed up already.
Why was that?
They just didn't read the instructions right when they were building it. We don't want them to know that, you know, it's a spaceship beacon up there.
Yeah, we're designing something very special in that
Yes.
arm.
Elvis lives up in the torch.
Elvis has a little apartment.
He lives in the torch.
I can't imagine him getting through that little ladder. That's
No.
why. Rehabilitation rectified the problem, but the Park Service has not been tempted to open the arm again.
Zeph,
Yes.
have you been in the torch?
Yes. It was about a month ago, and I went in the morning. It was a lot like this. It was cold, it was windy, it was pretty nasty out. And went up there and climbed up and came out, and the torch was, you know, kind of swaying like this. And walked around it and checked it out, and then looked down, and then decided I was never going to go up there again.
What do you say, just between us, you take us with the camera up into the torch, and we won't tell anybody, just the people that are watching the show.
No.
I'm getting up in this torch if it's the last thing I do! Ah!
Tell me something. Do you trust your bartender? Do you realize how vulnerable you are while you're out bar hopping? Dear Cecil, every now and then I hear someone complain about being slipped a Mickey in a bar, but none of my bartender friends has any idea what a Mickey is or how to make one. How about some background on the recipe? RB, Las Vegas.
Trust me, you'll like this one.
Bartenders in Vegas don't know how to make a Mickey? Yeah, next you'll be telling me butchers in Brooklyn don't know how to put their thumbs on scales.
Hey, watch it.
There's no agreement on what goes in a Mickey, a.k.a. a Mickey Finn or Mickey Flynn, or how it got its name, or even what it's supposed to do. Most people think a Mickey is a dose of knockout drops, usually administered to some hapless barfly as a preamble to rolling him. But to some, it means a purgative, an agent tending to cause evacuation of the bowels.
Why are my pants on backwards?
One of Cecil's sources goes so far as to say the original Mickey was a laxative for horses. This kind of Mickey you'd feed to a drunk to get rid of him. As for what's in it, well, take your pick. A 1931 magazine article says it's croton oil, a purgative, while a slang dictionary says it's chloral hydrate, a sedative/hypnotic. To further confuse things, you sometimes see references to croton chloral hydrate, which from the sound of it accelerates business at one end while slowing it down at the other.
Oops.
Others say a Mickey is cigar ashes in a carbonated beverage or merely an industrial strength drink.
Chloral hydrate is essentially a barbiturate. And what that can do is it's what's known as a CNS depressant. In other words, it depresses your central nervous system to the point that if you take enough of it, you become comatose, very drowsy, lethargic, and the like.
Throw a little pill in there, you get all torqued up, and next thing you're sick.
Could it kill you?
Yes, especially children. If it's used in a high enough dose, children are a little bit more susceptible than adults as far as those type of adverse effects.
Cecil has come across one colorful, if not necessarily reliable, explanation of the name Mickey Finn in Gem of the Prairie, a 1940 history of the Chicago underworld by Hebery Asbury.
Welcome to Chi-Town.
Asbury claims the original Mickey Finn was a notorious Chicago South Loop tavern proprietor who opened a dive named the Lone Star Saloon in Palm Garden in 1896. Here he fenced stolen goods, supervised pickpockets and B-girls, and engaged in other sleazy enterprises.
How many drinks have you had?
None.
Around 1898, Finn obtained a supply of white stuff that may have been chloral hydrate. He made this the basis of 2 knockout drinks. The Mickey Finn Special, consisting of raw alcohol, water in which snuff had been soaked, and a dollop of white stuff. And the number 2, beer mixed with a jolt of white, plus the aforementioned snuff water.
Where's my wallet?
Mickeys, maybe a generation ago, were for the most part chloral hydrate, now are a benzodiazepam, or that's also called Roughies. These benzodiazepines are very, very potent, much more so potent than Valium or some of the other benzodiazepines that are frequently used by individuals.
Patrons who tried either of these concoctions soon found themselves face down in the popcorn. At the end of the night, they were dragged into a back room, stripped of their valuables and sometimes even their clothes, then dumped in an alley. When the victims awoke, they could remember nothing.
He goes, oh yeah, I threw a little Mickey in there. I'm like, oh, thanks a lot. I really appreciate that.
It's never easy to admit this, but it's time to show some commercials. I suggest you stick around, though, and find out whether you can live by eating bread alone or chocolate makes you feel sexy, and if a strong singer can use their voice to break glass. That's worth coming back for.
Stay tuned for more of The Straight Dope here on A&E.
It's bigger than its predecessors, more powerful, and yet beneath its tough exterior, it's also more accommodating and approachable. Plus, it's available in 2-wheel or 4-wheel drive. Introducing the all-new 4Runner. Sophisticated, refined, fearless.
From the very first note she sang,
I'm planning to record my own songs.
I can't sell girl singers.
she knew what she wanted to be. But life came between her and her dreams.
If you could just pick yourself up, you'll realize that the guy let you down, not your talent.
Ileana Douglas, Matt Dillon, Eric Stoltz, and John Turturro. In a film by Allison Anders, Grace of My Heart, rated R, starts Friday at select theaters.
Was that your plan?
Oh, just a little something of my own.
Well, stop it. You know what I want to hear.
No, don't.
You played it for her, you play it for me.
Well, I don't think I can remember.
Play it.
Yes, boss.
Ah, that moist chocolate cake, creamy chocolate frosting. Who could ever forget Sara Lee, Sara Lee, Sara Lee?
He had his enormous, disfigured, discolored nose that intimidated people.
J.P. Morgan was one of the richest, most successful people the world has ever seen.
He had piercing black eyes that seemed to look through people.
Banker, industrialist, art collector, and emperor of Wall Street. J.P. Morgan, as Family Fortunes Week begins on Biography. Tonight at 8 Eastern, 9 Pacific, only on A&E. Don't be left out in the dark. Switch on The Edison Effect. Next Sunday, only on A&E.
All right, we're coming back. Seriously, we are. Oh, fresh bread. It's delicious, but can it sustain life? Dear Cecil, can man live by bread alone? If so, how long? Irving Butternut, Los Angeles. Long enough to wish it were shorter, Irv. But we won't know the exact details until some selfless volunteer, such as yourself, eats bread only and dies. What we are about to discuss here is the massive breakdown of the human body. It will be a slow and messy death.
Eventually, unless you consume some element of protein, it's going to come back to haunt you. If you don't consume certain essential fatty acids, certain minerals, other nutrients, I suppose if it was the ultimate bread,
you'd have to take certain precautions. Bread is about 35% water. But most breads also contain so much salt that a greater amount of water than is contained in a loaf is needed to rinse that low sodium out of your body.
Yikes!
If you were to try to live on ordinary bread, there'd be too much sodium in your blood, and you'd become hypernatremic. You'd slip into a coma, and in about 10 days, you'd vanish forever. So find yourself a low-salt bread, and then find yourself a nice room somewhere with a steady temperature of 65 degrees and relative humidity of 60%, since you can't afford to sweat. And then start to eat and eat. Yes, a lot of eating is ahead of you, Irving, because to extract the 2 pounds of water you need each day, you'll have to eat nearly 6 1-pound loaves a day. Whew, easy does it. You can't afford to puke.
They could live on bread alone for a little while, but eventually they would, develop some problems. Bread contains carbohydrate, which is our main fuel source, and in our country we fortify it and add all kinds of nutrients to it, some of the trace vitamins and minerals, and so you would receive some of those nutrients, but the protein provided is very low, and some key nutrients like vitamin C and like vitamin A would not be provided.
So we've licked the thirst problem, but the next one's even tougher. Humans must consume vitamin C in their diets, and bread, alas, doesn't have any. So there doesn't seem to be any way you can avoid getting scurvy.
Scurvy!
I've never seen a case of scurvy myself. It was originally described in sailors who were at sea and didn't have fruit accessible to them.
Scurvy is the reason many of the seamen of old didn't live to become old seamen. After about 6 weeks on a bread-only diet, the level of ascorbic acid, or vitamin C, in your body will drop to 0. The early signs of scurvy are fatigue, loss of appetite, you're going to have to force those 6 loaves down, and aching bones and joints. Then your gums will begin to bleed and your teeth start to wiggle.
I need some fruit.
Basically, it's a problem with the collagen, the stuff that holds you together in the body, not being able to stay together, if you will.
Ooh, so your body would almost go apart
in a sense.
Look for hemorrhaging under the skin with anemia resulting. Your hair will begin to split and coil and bury itself in its follicles. The pre-terminal signs are vomiting and swooning blood pressure. You'll be weak by now, collapsing on so many fronts and so open to infection that it might be hard to pinpoint the exact cause of death. It will be kind of an adventure.
We eat to live.
So how long would you last? Judging from the experiences of old sea dogs with scurvy, it's possible you could live 2 years, especially if you allow yourself to drink water. But if you don't, and consequently try to shove 6 loaves down your throat day in and day out, and that means consuming about 8,000 calories a day, 4 times what a 160-pound man needs when he's moderately active, and you won't be. You'll be lacing your urine with glucose and wildly overtaxing your kidneys, which means you should be happy to be alive 6 months later. That is, if you don't wish you were dead.
The story of a fuller, happier, richer life for all of us.
You're so beautiful. You really are. I'm not just saying that to get you out of your wrapper. I'm not that kind of guy. I've never eaten another chocolate bar before in my life. You're the first one. Wait, hang on, I gotta go to work. Dear Cecil, I heard several times that chocolate contains some of the same chemicals that the human brain produces when you're in love. Is this true? And if so, what's the practical effect? That is, will chocolate make me more or less horny? Tom R., Hollywood, California. Sorry you had to hear that. This letter reeks of desperation, Thomas.
Well, I like chocolate. Hey, I like sex too, you know, but I like sex a lot more than chocolate.
Kind of smear it on the hips real quickly, you know.
I try to seduce myself with chocolate.
Love? No. Bloated? Yeah. Must be some mental thing. It makes me feel loved.
The chocolate love hormone theory was started by 2 doctors at the New York State Psychiatric Institute, Donald F. Klein and Michael R. Leibowitz. They suggested that the brain of a person in love, or otherwise feeling groovy, contains large quantities of phenylethylamine, a chemical that supposedly produces an amphetamine-like high.
I see lizards.
Chocolate, it turns out, also contains a lot of phenylethylamine. So Klein and Leibowitz whimsically suggested that maybe people like chocolate so much because it makes them feel like they're in love.
Some of them look pretty desperate when they come in.
Hi, my name is Melton. Would you like a Snickers bar?
Please note that we're not talking about an aphrodisiac or sexual stimulant here. You see, Tom, you've fallen prey to the typical male assumption that love equals sex.
The accordion is the instrument of love.
Going to bed with a fine-looking woman you can find. Is that all right for television?
I'm basically in a daze. I think I have a little glow.
Then again, I suppose if you fed your date some Hershey bars before making a pass at her some night, she might imagine that she had fallen in love with you, allowing you to cynically violate her maidenhood. Cheaper than a BMW, I guess.
I love you, chocolate.
Other research has failed to confirm the Klein-Leibowitz hypotheses. At any rate, a couple of years ago, another researcher found that phenylethylamine levels in the blood failed to rise after people consumed chocolate, suggesting that most of the chemical is metabolized during digestion and never reaches the brain. The proceeding notwithstanding, chocolate is still considered to be mildly addictive because it contains a stimulant, caffeine.
Hey, kid, you got some chocolate?
In Chocolate to Morphine, Understanding Mind-Active Drugs, Andrew Weil passes along the testimony of one hapless choco addict who could not remember the last time I had managed to get through the whole day without eating chocolate in one form or another. I would think nothing of getting in my car and driving halfway across LA for a fix.
Chocolate don't make a difference. I mean, I'm 100% horny all the time, so it doesn't, you know, it's not gonna consume up anything.
Eventually, the lady went to a clinic where they gave her electric shocks while she was eating Choco Bits. Not surprisingly, this eventually broke her of the habit. Delighted, she now reports that the only problem is I'm now addicted to cake. Clearly, this woman has a problem.
Do you think chocolate is an aphrodisiac?
To women it is, not to men.
See, Tom, love comes from here, not here. It's just chocolate, you know? Oh. I think it's best that we take a break right now, and I'll get cleaned up, and Oh yeah, we're talking about opera singers who can break glass with their voice. I don't need this stuff at all, man. It's not even that good, really. Well, we're back. I'm just kidding, that was a test. But we will be.
There's a smile in every Hershey bar.
In the spirit of Italian generosity, the Olive Garden's bringing back the never-ending pasta bowl, just $6.95. Choose your favorite from our special pasta menu. Then, enjoy as many free refills as you want. Choose from spaghetti and meat sauce, creamy fettuccine Alfredo, and many more never-ending favorites. With unlimited salad and breadsticks, the never-ending pasta bowl, just $6.95 for a short time at the Olive Garden, where the Italian spirit is never-ending.
It's bigger than its predecessors, more powerful. And yet, beneath its tough exterior, it's also more accommodating and approachable. Plus, it's available in two-wheel or four-wheel drive. Introducing the all-new 4Runner. Sophisticated, refined, fearless.
What's in a name? Fortunes. Biographies, Family Fortunes. All this week at 8 Eastern, 9 Pacific on A&E.
Be warned, you may experience a strong desire to wear shape-revealing clothes. It's the positive side effects of the new Playtex Cross Your Heart.
She's a natural.
The unique side shaping supports you from here to here for a more natural look under clothes.
Very natural.
New Cross Your Heart. Experience the positive side effects.
America Online makes your life easier and more fun. You've got mail. You'll see. Just give it a try. Call this toll-free number now for everything you need to get started. Try America Online.
Stay tuned for more of The Straight Dope here on A&E.
What? Why don't you like the music? What? I thought you loved this stuff. That's why I turned it on. Yeah, whatever. Hold on. Dear Cecil, can operatic sopranos really break glasses with their high notes? What note does the trick? How come they don't break windows and eyeglasses and whatnot at the same time? Can women do this better than men? Can I learn how? Or have I been the victim of an elaborate hoax? Vox Clementis, Chicago. You know, Vox, Cecil hasn't found any confirmed reports of people breaking glasses with just their naked voice. After all, Ella Fitzgerald used a microphone on the Memorex commercial. The main problem is that you would need, how shall I say, amazing pipes. However, in theory, which of course is very important to us at The Straight Dope, it can be done. In fact, we actually gave it a try. First, we had to find someone with perfect pitch and leather lungs. So we had an actual opera singer flown in just for this experiment. The next step was to get a crystal glass and tap it. Tap it. That allowed us to determine the glass's natural frequency of vibration. We then asked our singer to sing precisely the same note. Our singer summoned up every ounce of her carefully trained vocal power. Unfortunately, the glass didn't break. All right, Mr. Scientist, let's see you do it.
I'd like to see somebody do it with a voice in front of me. You know,
really? I don't think it could happen.
I don't know. At the levels I have to put this up, I don't think you can sing that loud and come up with a decent note.
Well, what is this that you're talking about?
All right, I have an oscillator here which is producing the frequency itself, and an amplifier that can drive this speaker driver. It's actually a horn driver. And we use a little horn driver. It has a small diaphragm which concentrates the sound. You've got to be right on, and the closer you are on, the better this thing works. And the frequency is very narrow over which it will actually operate. if that's what we should be looking for or not. We got one. It can be done.
Now you're thinking, how did she do that anyway? It's an example of forced oscillation resonance. Let's see the instant replay. Whoa, pain. You want to see some real vibrations? The Tacoma Narrow Suspension Bridge in Washington State. On November 7, 1940, it began to oscillate in the wind blowing through the canyon, vibrating it like a saxophone reed. As to their glass, the stress was so great that the bridge was destroyed. Well, you know what that means. It's over. But tell me you didn't have a blast. So, if you decide to question something in life, come to us. We'll set you straight. I'm Mike Lucas. I'll see you again.
Is there something you need to get straight? For fast temporary relief of ignorance, send email to Cecil at shyreader.com or visit him on America Online. Send snail mail care of the Chicago Reader or consult the collected works, available at enlightened bookstores everywhere.
Tomorrow night, Biography puts you on the fast track to success with 5 rich profiles for Family Fortunes Week, all next week at 8 Eastern, 9 Pacific. Now, anything goes on A&E's all-new crazy comedy show, The Straight Dope, next on A&E.